today I'm talking with Caitlin, who is a longtime client and I would say friend. And we've talked quite a few times over the years, haven't we, Caitlin?
Yes. I don't even know how many years it's been, but it's been a while.
It has. We've been through a few changes together.
Yes. You've seen me at my worst and my best.
And your best.
Yes.
So I'm getting a lot of people just kind of asking, why do people come to you for healings and what is it like and what to expect? And sometimes, healing over the phone, they're not so sure about this. So I am so grateful that you said yes to being interviewed and just share a little bit about your experience, what you're doing. What made you originally reach out for help? Do you remember way back when?
Yeah, I had to think about that for a second, but I first heard about you through a friend of mine who'd been working with you for years. Over the last 10 plus years, I'd been working with a number of healers and therapists that I had come to know very well, and I was comfortable working with them. But after working with them for so long, I think things kind of progressed to a point where they just couldn't really do any more for me. I needed to explore my issues and my triggers on a really deep level. And it was hard to do that once you reach a limit working with someone that you have for so long. Just things stop working as well for you. And I mean, that can be really frustrating. And I remember having this conversation with that close friend, and she recommended that I reach out to you, that you were able to offer different healing modalities than I had been familiar with and grew out of. So I was definitely open to that. And I didn't think twice about reaching out to you.
So, did you find the healing modalities that you and I worked with together? Were they different from other like healers or counselors or doctors that you've worked with?
Yeah, I have a background of working with people who've done Reiki and I've done a lot of acupuncture. That worked really well for me. Pretty much anything you can think of. There's just so many things I've been around my entire life. I have a sister who's in the field as well, and my mom has kind of been into holistic healing her entire life. So I wasn't a stranger to it. I've tried a lot of different things. Some work for me better than others. Acupuncture was probably what worked for me the best, and I had found a guy who I'd been seeing for years. But when I moved, I obviously wasn't able to see him anymore. So I mean that was difficult, but uh, I think now you're my go-to person for just about anything I can think of. I mean, I come to you with my health concerns, anything around relationships, family members, trauma. Um, I've been in therapy since my late teen years. I'm not a stranger to being in hospitals. And something I really like about working with you is you combine a lot of the good parts of the holistic healing that worked really well for me. So like the color puncture, it's like taking acupuncture to the next level up. You're kind of graduating from just basic acupuncture. So I still feel the benefit of getting acupuncture when I work with you, but with the benefit of the color therapy. And I'm a visual person. I don't know if that really plays into it, but being able to focus on a color and the emotions associated with that color and the feelings associated with that color really helped me to kind of hammer in the healing a lot better than just basic acupuncture. It's combining two different healing modalities in my mind. I don't know if that's actually what it is, but to me, that's how I'm making sense of it. Um, and I appreciate that you don't dismiss modern medicine too. I know that's not really your field, but I think everything has its place. So it's good to work with someone who doesn't look down on you for going to the doctor when you're having a serious medical issue that's progressed in the physical body beyond the mental and emotional layers. So, I mean, you're definitely different than an allopathic doctor, but I mean, you combine parts of other um, energy healers in their modalities that I really liked and that worked really well for me.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and there definitely is a place for allopathic medicine. Absolutely.
Yes.
And there's definitely a place for holistic medicine.
Yes, absolutely.
And yeah, and the color puncture is very similar to acupuncture, except we don't use any needles. Uh,
Right.
which is just colors on the acupuncture points, and then some other points, and then working with the energy. And now you and I think we've always worked over the phone, haven't we?
We have, yeah,
Yeah.
which was new for me. I've always done in-person sessions, but I never thought that it was weird. I was pretty open to it right from the beginning. I didn't have any reservations about it. And in fact, I think I like it more than being in person with someone. Whenever there's energy work going on, I tend to get either really cold or really hot. And so I like laying in my own bed, being as comfortable as possible and wearing my pajamas. I can just be totally at ease, not worrying about being judged or, whatever you go through when you're around someone who's being like that vulnerable and working on you about those, vulnerable things.
Yeah, we do talk about some pretty vulnerable areas, don't we?
Yes, they can get really intense. A lot of trauma, it's hard to share with someone. So you want to be in a comfortable environment.
Absolutely. Is sharing those uncomfortable moments with me, I mean, have you found that any different than sharing them with somebody else, or is it's just, different time, different space?
I don't know if it's just you, but you have a very comforting presence for me. It's really easy for me to open up to you, and things that I wouldn't normally talk to with other people just sort of fall out of me when I'm talking with you. In my head, I always have my walls up like, I don't need to talk about this. They don't need to know about this. But when I'm talking with you, it just kind of falls out of me. And I really appreciate that about you. You're just so easy to talk to. You're very comforting.
I think it's important to be able to feel safe and talk about anything and everything because it all matters.
Right.
Absolutely. So, for somebody who's maybe never experienced a healing session, definitely a color puncture energy session over the phone, can you share what is a session like for you? Like, what do you experience during a session?
So for me, I'm always kind of amazed at how quickly the sessions go by. They're typically an hour that we work together, but whenever we wrap up, I'm always amazed that it hasn't been just 15 minutes because that's what it feels like. It just goes so quickly. But it also feels like we just cram so much work. It's all condensed into 1 hour. We do so much together. And every session varies, I think, based upon what we're working on. They can get really intense, and I can start crying or laughing hysterically out of nowhere. But just about every session where we're working together, I start to get random body spasms, the body parts or the organs that we're working on healing. I'll start getting shooting pains sometimes, or I'll get like immediate relief. And I really think it's incredible how quickly my body responds to the healing. Like before you even mention that you're doing something, I'll start to feel it physically, or like it'll come to mind, like, oh, she's doing this now. Like we work very well together, and I seem to respond very well to it, which is amazing. I've never had that happen before. I would have someone lead me into something, describing what they're doing, and then maybe I would start to feel it. Um, a lot of times I'll go into a session with a particular idea in mind that I'd like to focus on, and we'll end the session on a completely different topic. But working with you really helps me dig into the issues and find out what they're rooted in. And that can dredge up a lot of things that need healing as well. So I just go in from the beginning with no expectations and an understanding that anything can and may come up.
That is so true. That is so true. We may think we're going in one direction and we go in a completely different direction wherever
Yes.
you need to go. And
Yes, exactly.
yeah, it's so important that both of us are just open to the process.
Right.
Yeah. So some people are probably wondering about the results. How would you describe your results, and how long do they last typically? I know it's going to be different for each person and each situation.
Right.
What's your experience?
Usually when we wrap up, I typically just feel kind of spacey. I feel like 50 pounds have been lifted from my body. I'm kind of sleepy, feeling kind of loopy, but I'll feel good. I'm just kind of feeling out of it. I think more often than not, I don't feel immediate results of the healing until the next few days. I just kind of feel like, oh my God, just, something's just run through my body and I don't know what it is. And I'm just going to kind of sit with that. The time immediately after a session is like the processing period where the energy just continues to work, and you let it do its thing, and it keeps working through the blockages. But then over the next few days, like the results become more distinct. Sometimes by the very next day, I'll feel like a definitive shift. Pain will lessen, or it'll completely disappear, or I'll have sudden clarity that I didn't have before. And I do tend to be more tired than usual too, maybe for a week or so, depending how heavy or deep an issue is that we've been working on. But I do definitely notice a difference within the next few days for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one thing with working with energy. And I think any energy work, you do feel a little bit like really relaxed afterwards and a little loopy.
Yeah.
I have a joke, no driving under the influence of color.
It really is like being drunk. It's so funny.
Yeah,
Don't
it's
want to go grocery shopping after you do it.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's like grounded, ground back in, ground back in.
Yes.
Um, now, recently we've talked about anxiety with you, and I want to bring this up because I know right now, with everything going on in the world, a lot of people are experiencing incredible anxiety. Was this helpful for your anxiety?
Oh, 100%. Whenever I'm having an anxiety spike or a panic attack, my first thought is, I need to have a session. It's like a drug. I need it. It's like one of the only things that can help me feel more grounded and just, down to earth again. And it's so hard to get out of that space when you're in it, and you just get into the spiral and it gets out of control so quickly. Like you said, there's just so much going on out there, not even talking about on a personal level, but just out in the world. It's just insane. You know, this work that we do, I'm so grateful for it. I don't know how I'd be getting through it otherwise. None of my tools that I've had being in therapy or, these other healing things that I've done over the years, I would have my toolbox that I would go to and, oh, okay, I can do this, I can do that. I have this to fall back on. Maybe I'll try journaling, or things that have always worked for me before just suddenly don't work anymore. And being in that place is terrifying because you just don't know what to do. And there's no guidebook on this, and nobody can tell you what to do or what it's going to be like, or if you're going to come out the other side okay. And when you're in that anxiety spiral, it's even worse. You can't think clearly, and you really need someone to help tether you back to reality. And I'm really grateful for these sessions. They're able to do that for me.
Absolutely, absolutely. When you're in a panic attack or an anxiety attack, it's a scary place. It's a very dark place to be.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So would you recommend this to others? What would you tell them if they asked you about it? About color and energy healing and the kind of healing that we do together?
I would 100% recommend it to anyone I know, whether they're a believer in color puncture or not. That doesn't matter. Just say, try it, please. Like I said before, you're probably the most calming person I've ever worked with. I really feel like doing this work, you're able to see and understand and hear me when I'm hurting, even when I can't fully understand or articulate what's happening with myself. And I wouldn't trade that level of comfort or confidence to someone for anything else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That says a lot right there.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you would like to share with people that might be helpful for them during this, time of just craziness?
I think the most important thing to know, and we kind of touched on this before, is again, just be open to anything coming up while you're doing this sort of work. You might have trauma surface that you didn't realize that was affecting you and caused this issue with your physical body, or maybe it's tied to some issue in every relationship that you've ever been in, and you just don't know until you really get into the nitty-gritty of the work. It's a lot of work, and it can be really tough, and it can be really scary. But just know you're in good hands, and no matter what you're doing, it is progress, even if it doesn't feel like it. You just got to be open, get out of your head, let the answers come to you on their own time. And trying to control or overanalyze everything happening just kind of delays it. And you really just got to be open and allow whatever's going to happen. So just be open.
I think that says so much about life in general.
Yes, it's been a really tough lesson to learn, but once you're there and you know it.
You're so right. You're so right. We like to grab hold of things and like really overanalyze it, and all it does is kind of keeps us stuck, and it creates more frustration.
Yeah, especially in this time of uncertainty. Just trying to control anything that's going on, it's just an act of futility.
It really is. Such a lesson learned, right?
Yes.
Oh, beautiful. I so want to thank you for sharing your time with us today.
No problem at all. I'm happy to be here and happy to help.
Oh, absolutely. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up?
No, I really can't think of anything. I would just say if you're on the fence thinking about taking the plunge, just do it. You know, it can't hurt you.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Caitlin. I'm going to stop the recording.
Okay.